of European Studies. I'm also the interim director of the Center for Portuguese Studies, and I would like to welcome all of you to today's event, an event entitled Being Azorean. I'm also literary and sociological portraits. Today's event is co-organized with our partners from the Luso-American Development Foundation, and it will be moderated by my colleague, Diolinda Adão, the honorary fellow of our Center for Portuguese Studies. But before I pass it on to Diolinda, allow me to briefly introduce today's speakers. And we have three speakers for today's event. And the first one is Manuel da Silva Betancourt, a retired dentist who was born on the beautiful island of Graciosa in the Azores. He immigrated to the United States, to California, with his family about 50 years ago, graduated from San Jose State University, Universidade Autónoma de... the Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara in Mexico, and also from UCLA. He owned a dental practice for over 30 years in the city of Santa Clara here in California, and has been involved in over 24 organizations promoting the Portuguese language and culture in California. We also welcome to today's event Licínio Tomás, who was born in Belmonte, in Portugal, lived in France near Lyon, and then later studied sociology at the New University of Lisbon at the School of Social and Human Sciences. He then joined the University of the Azores in 1992, where he currently is a professor at the School of Social Sciences. He's also an integrated member of the Interdisciplinary Center for Social Studies at the New University of Lisbon, that has its own Azores hub, where he coordinates the research axis on life cycle, generations, and aging. And then finally, as the third speaker, we welcome to today's program Rosa Simas, who is a native of Pico Island, also in the Azores, who at the age of 2 then immigrated with her parents to California. And she completed her PhD in comparative literature here at the University of California, Berkeley. But later in life, she returned to the Azores, where she was a professor of modern languages and literatures at the University of the Azores, where she taught for over 3 decades. And still today, she is a researcher associated with the Criatur Azores, a creative tourism project based on the culture, history, arts, traditions, and place of the people. So I would like to welcome the 3 speakers to today's event, and thank you all for accepting our invitation to joining us for today's program. And I will pass it on now to my dear colleague, Diolinda, who will moderate the discussion. So Diolinda, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jerome, and thank you also for the introductions. They were wonderful. And it is a pleasure indeed to participate in this event. We have an interesting group of people who I'm sure will bring us a lot of insight. We are going to conduct this sort of in a little bit of an interview mode, and I would like to start by posing a question to Manuel Betancourt, because we would like to speak with diaspora, about diaspora and to the diaspora. So my first question to Manuel may not be the traditional, how did you get here? But because we all know how you got here. But what I'm really interested to know is you are a major force of the Portuguese community. And what I would like you to share is, why is to you so important to conduct diaspora work? Why are you so involved with the Portuguese community in so many areas of that community?
Ok, bom dia a todos, ou boa tarde. change that? Or I was speaking, I have to speak English, right? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, I was speaking in Portuguese. So
we noticed.
So I have been involved in the community for over about 50 years since I arrived in California. The first organization, one of the first ones that I joined was the Luz American Education Foundation. I joined this one because of the Portuguese language and culture. As you know, we have a conference every year. I think we are in a 46th conference now, I think. And we have this, on this conference, we have the various of, so we have teachers, we have some presentations about the language and about our culture and the Portuguese in California, especially, and in the world. And that's why I joined this organization. The other thing was because we give scholarships to students. Usually, before the pandemic, we used to give about 90,000 a year of scholarships to the Portuguese American students. Also, this year, because of the pandemic, we're going to give only about $60,000. But since when I went to school, I had no scholarships. I had to, the scholarships I got was from Bank of America, which it took me 10 years to pay, 4.5% interest. And so that's why I joined this Luz American Education Foundation for the scholarships, especially, and also for the conferences about the Portuguese language and culture.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manuel. I now would like to have one question for Licinio, and I just got a message from Licinio saying, oh my God, my English is so bad, and maybe I could say a couple of things in Portuguese. So I think, Licinio, we will take your bad English with interjections with your good Portuguese. How's that? And that way we can, if there's a problem, I can assist and make sure that everybody understands, because I don't think everybody who's on speaks Portuguese, and we want them to be able to understand what we're saying. And my first question to you is, my understanding is you moved to the Azores to come to work at the university. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. I'm starting the University of the Azores 49 years ago, exactly.
Correct. So, so my question to you has to do with that. And if you need help with the language to express yourself, I'll be happy to do that. My question to you is, how do you see yourself being Azorean? What is your Azorean identity, being that you have lived in the Azores more than half of your life? Considerably more.
In the Azorean identity, I think is very marked about the insularity, about the distance for the mainlands and other continents and countries. Azorean's community have great diaspora to implement the great sentiment of the mondiality, of the big reconnaissance for the small country, small region. The Azorean thought is very impressed in the older people to live. They live in the mainland and North America and Brazil. It's very, very strong roots and wings. I say frequently the socialization to give our two conditions. One is the roots, two is the wings. In this case is very correct. The Azorean people is to implement the roots and the wings for the new elements, the young people.
Licinio, thank you. But what I was really asking you is, how do you see yourself as Azorean? What is, in other words, your Azorianidad?
My Azorianidad?
Yes, yours.
For my case, thank you for this brilliant question. In my case, it's very complicated, but I'm not Azorean, and I'm a world citizen. Me and Socrates. My way in life is very long of the Europe, mainland, others. I'm just born in the Portuguese mountains, Sierra da Estrela. But in 2 years, when I have 2 years, my parents immigrate because he's the descendant of Salazar. He's immigrated to France. I'm coming back with her, and I live 12 years in Leon. Not exactly Leon, but Leon and Saint in France. I think I have one como é que se diz? Fórmula de ternura de pensamento.
You have a formula for your, or
yes,
a composition for your thought.
My position in life is French in part, but I'm returned to Covilhã and Lisbon. Lisbon is very in 90s is very cosmopolitan, but I have not create roots about one specific city. I have one world vision of life. In my case, I'm not very influenced, but by the life in the others, because I speak with my colleagues in Lisbon and France and other countries, and I have my great relation with the other countries, and not just my colleagues. I think the element more influence in the socialization, in the representation of Azoreans mentality is the birth, nascimento, and the
birth. You mean the birth?
The first scholarity.
Mm-hmm.
is the position of Eric Hobsbawm. Is the first element more strong to construct in the construct process of identity is the first scholarity, the primary school.
Primary school.
Primary
the first,
school.
yes.
In the sense, my primary school in French is in French, but this is the primary school to communicate the fundamental style of life, style of entendimento do mundo. Né?
Your understanding of the world, how you conceive the world. I agree with you completely. My first schooling was in Spanish, although I lived in Portugal. So I understand. But in a way, Licínio, you've always lived on an island because a Serra da Estrela is in a way an island because it's sort of set apart. Living in Lyon, in a Portuguese community of immigrants at that time, also created a social island of sort. And then after you completed your education, you actually moved to an island, a bit the largest of the Azorean Islands. So I don't think it's so difficult to say that in spite of it all, you are an islander.
Yeah, I'm not one under an island. I'm just one observator, and I'm studied the behavior of Azoreans and other people. I'm very, very interested in the difference between generations. Is in this term I study the generations 20 years ago, more or less. The generation, the new generation is very different or between socialization process. Yes, because the rules of learning and to make your personalities different in the world. The rules is very transformed, but style 16th. In this moment, you have new generations more interested to compare it young people in the other place in Europe, in North America, more than their people, ou mais do que com os seus.
So what you're saying is that you are beginning to notice a shift in the identity of construction of the Azorean youth, because their interlocutors are not just the people around them, but they really communicate with the world through their devices, such as cell phones and computers. So is that what you're trying to say?
No, exactly. The computers devices and the others technology is not influence the personality. It's just influence the make the mode of to take the quotidianity. Just the more influence in the process of the identity is basically your references about appartenance,
A belonging.
a belonging, exactly, a belonging. Is one imaginary question is the nature of the symbolic values of the symbols, is the symbols. One example, the generation about our parents, Azoreans, is very prefer the folklore, the dances, the specific language in your countries. In the sense, this context to create reference strong about the local community. To compare the generation more young, 20 years, don't não acreditam na religião. Não têm a religião.
They don't believe in religion. They're not as religious.
Don't believe in religion. Don't believe in the rituals. Don't practice the rituals. Don't practice the ceremonies and festivities. The festivities is just to meeting your colleagues, your parents, but when to come back in this date. The festivities is one motive for two meetings your family in the diaspora. Actually, is not it's not have the very singular significance, the singular signification, the participation in the rituals, local rituals. In this sense, is not important for the young people. Is just one reference for the older generations. In my case, I don't believe in God and not believe in the values about the local community. I'm just one attentive observer. I'm just eu sou bom cidadão que gosta de viver nos Açores.
So you define yourself as a good citizen who loves to live in the Azores. And the Azores provide you the opportunity to be a good citizen, right? I feel that way myself. I feel I'm always a little better when I'm there. Because I have this feeling that if I'm bad, I have no place to run. So I better be good. But something that you just said is going to take me back to Manuel. I apologize. We're still trying to get Professor Simas on. Apparently, she's having some connection issues, and I believe my colleague Duarte is trying to address those. There are other participants who have the last name Simas, and he keeps asking me, "Is this her? Is this her?" No, she has several sisters who we are very happy to welcome. So please keep trying to get her connected. So, but something that you said about this generation shift and having people who are older, very close to the traditions, both religious and social. and the younger generation, even as much as 20, 30 years, shifting away from those, in a way, is we don't see that in the diaspora. And we all know that diasporas usually don't evolve at the same rate that communities, the original communities, evolved. And there are a number of questions that sociologists discuss about that with those phenomena. But I want to take it back to Dr. Betancourt and talk about that. How is that? Because the community is having some of those same phenomenon. You know, our young people are broadening their scope of interest. They are having activities outside of the community greater and greater, and they're due to, particularly in California, the enormous and complete integration of the community. So how is that being felt in the community organizations? How are we looking forward to the future regarding engagement and that maintaining of the maintenance by the youth of that identity? The one thing that I find that I think we need to think about is, does that disengagement by the youth mean they're losing their Azorean identity, or are they keeping it just in a different form? So, and I would like, hold on just a second, I'm sorry. I would like to welcome our friend, Professor Onésimo Almeida, who's just joined us. So welcome. Go ahead. And go ahead, Manuel. Thank you.
Okay. I just spoke with Professor Rosa Simers. She's trying to get in, but she cannot. I don't know why. Can we invite her from here to for her?
I don't know. We'll put Duarte on that job, and we'll have you answer the question, please.
Okay. So our youth in California, as you know, I have been involved in many organizations, and we are the problem that we feel now with our organizations. It's the immigration stopped. It's stagnated now.
Well, thank God. This means Azoreans who live in the Azores have a better quality of life.
Yes.
So that's not a bad thing.
Yes, they do. So, and the youth, we are trying them to join the organizations, but some of them, they are more acculturation, they are more Americans. Like, I have two daughters, and one goes to the Portuguese events, but she married a Portuguese. But the other one married a visual, is from Spain. So they have a different, they don't want to be involved, or she wants, but the husband doesn't. So they have to go to the Spanish events and some of the Portuguese, and then their children, I would like them to speak Portuguese, but unfortunately, most of them, they speak English and don't learn Portuguese. Now we have some community schools on this area in California, and some of them go to Portuguese schools, but some of them, they don't want to go. But one thing that I want to emphasize is our children, they want to know about their roots. They want to learn where they came from. And we have tried for them to join the organizations. Some of them do, like in the bands. We have the 14 Portuguese bands in California. Some of them joined the bands. We have 16 folklore groups also, and they joined them. But now we have problems with two, like the Portuguese Athletic Club. There's no board. We celebrated 60 years last Saturday, 60. And they have no board now because nobody wants to work, nobody, and our young people, many, like on this area in San Jose, there are like about 30 or 35 organizations, Portuguese. We have 3 bands, 5 minutes walking, one from the other one. One in Santa Clara, which is only a few miles away. So, they joined these bands, but there are too many. One of the bands is going to close because they have no board now, and they're going to sell the building because the younger people, they don't want to join. There are so many, so they have to merge.
We all understand that there is a natural process that diasporas go through throughout the span of diaspora life, and taking into consideration the length of time that the Portuguese have been in California, we would say that we are seeing some of the same phenomenon that happened with other diaspora, like the Italian diaspora, the Spanish diaspora that you mentioned, and even the Irish, although the language doesn't go into it that way. That what we have now are just a few token organizations, and maybe a parade or two during the year, and so what we're experiencing is not abnormal. My question is more not about the performance of identity, but the feeling, the notion, the incorporation of identity. How do you see that the younger generation, that the youth, the Portuguese American youth in California lives their Azorean identity?
Well, they do, and some of them do, but most of the time, when they're small, they take the children to the events, to the Festa do Espírito Santo, and to Mass, go to church. But once they become more independent, they don't want to go to church, they don't want to go to the Portuguese events, they just want to be with their friends. So, but some of them do, there's no doubt about it. But I wish that we would have more joining these organizations. At this organization that celebrated 60 years, a few years ago, we invited some young people for the board, but some were students from San Jose State University, some were married not too long ago, and they had no time. The students had no time because they had to study and work part-time. The young people that got married, they already had children, they didn't show up. So to help the organization, to help with the events, to the dinners, to make money, to survive. And the old people, the older ones are the ones that were doing the work most of the time. So there's a reason why they don't join, because they are so busy with the work and going to school and.
But we understand all that, Manuel, because let's face it, when we were busy raising our children, it was those older than us that were complaining about the same thing. They kept saying we didn't care about the organizations, and that because we were busy raising children and trying to survive and flourish. So is that just not the normal way? Is it just that as people age, they will then have more time to dedicate to things, and then they will dedicate those to the community? I don't know, maybe that's something for us to think about. I would like an update to our, is it not going to be possible for Professor Simers to join us?
He says that her Zoom account blocked for 30 minutes, so I'm not sure if she will be able to join us.
Okay.
I'm trying to solve the problem, but in any case, you can move on with it.
Alrighty. Perfect. Thank you. What I was observing, and now I take it back to Licínio, I think Licínio was saying that even in the Azores, that's exactly what's happening, is the same phenomenon, that in the traditional performance of identity, things like the church and the folklore and this and that and the other, it is the older people who are more engaged in the younger generation. Am I correct? Is that what you were also saying, Licínio? Hello?
Hello. Nowadays, I think beliefs have been converted into aspiration for a successful life and search for well-being. I think that wanting to affirm the Azorean identity is just a concern of the children of the diaspora. Just the children of diaspora is not a problem for the young people. It's just older people. In the case of the younger generation, not even the language brings them closer. I think identity construction is changing very quickly. In this case, I'm not Azorean. I'm just one immigrant in this place. I'm observing the transition very quickly in the last decade. Is clear the beliefs our parents is not beliefs in the actuality of young people. It's clear to the reference about the essential elements of Azoreanity is to be transformed by the global communication, by global references. In this sense, the solid elements like the ceremonies, festivities, and folklore, it's just the folklore. It's not incorporated with the by day life in the quotidianity. It's very clear. I'm one immigrant in this place, but I'm very attentive for the changement, for the life of new style people in the peoples, in the new style in the local communities is very similar to others country. It is the fundamental experience. Second, the work is
job market
is global, and the necessities of make the skills is very equal in whole the place. In this sense, I think it's you have one uma âncora. Se existe uma âncora,
an anchor
is the language, the practice of language, and the cult of values. Not the honesty, the reference of old people, the communication with the family, of the other parents' family, the maintenance of equity and the process to the family continuar.
The family relations, the family interrelations.
Interrelations. This is the family interrelations to continue the reference of the appartenance in the community of Azoreans in the whole place in the world.
I understand. So, Manuel, again, now going back to you with this subject.
Eu peço desculpa se estou a dizer muita asneira, mas...
Não está a dizer asneira nenhuma, não se preocupe. So, Manuel, going back to you and thinking about what Licínio just said, that in a sense, although the younger generation has, by virtue of today's world and how today's world functions, has other interests that, because we do live in a worldwide community in a sense, how that has an impact on their views of themselves. However, to him is that family structure and the relations among the family members, the respect for the elders, the respect for the grandparents, so that even if the youth does not practice everything the grandparents do, like going to church and going to the community events, there is still that connection, and that belonging is established through that connection of their family. How do you see that? What do you think about that?
Okay, I would like to mention something that Licínio just mentioned about the values and the honesty of the Azoreans. When my family, when we came to California, we were 11 children, and where we lived, we started living in an apartment, 2 bedrooms, then we were 11 children, and with my parents, 13 people living in 2-bedroom apartments.
You were very cozy.
Yeah, I know, but we had to sleep 3 in 1 bed. My neighbors used to tell me, why don't you ask your father to go to welfare to get help? You have a large children, large family. You can get help from the government and get those stamps to eat and things like that. You know what my father told them? He always told me, Manuel, tell them that I came to this country to give a better life to my children, not to be a burden to this country. And he never went to welfare, never. That's honesty, that's values. Also, when they told us more than once, our neighbors, that they should go and they should do this, but he never did, and now we have about 200,000 illegals came into this country a month, 200,000 a month, invited, and they have also all free. They have free They pay the rent, they have free food, they have free school, they have everything free. And my family, my parents, my father never want something free in this country. I myself never got a scholarship. I never asked for a scholarship to go through school for 13 years, never. I worked in 2 jobs and I got loans from Bank of America to pay my studies. I never asked for a scholarship because I got from my father what I should do, be independent, not rely on the government for nothing.
I understand what you're trying to say. However, perhaps
let me just interrupt you.
Oh, perfect. I saw your message.
Okay.
Perhaps that position of your dad, however honorable it may be, could be influenced by the way he was raised and the fact that where he came from, there was no government assistance. You either lived or died on your own. So the way people formed their opinions, sometimes, as Licinio had mentioned, can be shaped by what you bring, what you're used to and what you're accustomed to. But so that the ability to ask for help may not always be a virtue, because we are human, and sometime in our life we may need help. But in any event, I'm very happy to see that Rosa is with us. Thank you, Rosa, because Rosa is sort of the double side to this, because Rosa was born in the Azores. Then she came to America and was diaspora. And then she re-immigrated to the Azores to teach. And so I'm very interested to hear from Rosa about the questions we've been trying to address, which are exactly, and I hate to go back to this focus of identity, and how does someone who has been Portuguese and Azorean in particular, as we are discussing that, on both sides of the world, in both the community itself and then in the diaspora community, because you were very involved in the community of Sacramento when you lived here. So I would like to hear from you on those two experiences and how you live what is to you being Azorean under each of those experiences.
Rosa, you have to unmute. You have to unmute.
Yes.
Okay.
Finally. Well, I apologize because this was not an easy journey today. I've used Zoom so many times. And for some reason, it just blocked on me. It must be Berkeley. Berkeley makes this all tough for us, huh? Duarte, nice to meet you, Duarte. Great to see you, Linda. Sure. I don't know, of course, what was said before. My sister Marlene, who's in California and is more savvy, much more savvy than I am on all this computer technology, called me and was actually through WhatsApp showed me a little bit about what Manuel was saying just now about financial aid. And Manuel, I disagree with you. I understand your need to be proud that you, your father, your family worked for everything you did, but receiving a grant to study is work too, because you work to qualify and then you apply it to your studies. As I went through my studies in the United States, I had some grants. I even received a Fulbright. I received a summer grant from Luz American Education Foundation, and I am extremely proud of that help that I had along the way. So I think we need to be careful in coloring all financial aid in a very negative light, because it's not really true. And many people that need it and deserve it actually do benefit from the good things that this aid can have. Julinda,
If I may add,
so I don't know.
Hold on, and many of them pay it back, which is really important.
Exactly, you end up paying back by the work you do. I feel
and
that
sometimes
the work
even
I've
financially.
done,
Yes,
teaching
correct.
at university, publishing, all the stuff. Goodness gracious, they don't stop.
Yes. Sorry for the interruption.
I'd like to add something to that also. Not all of them paid. There are over a million students that got, and they owe billions of dollars to the government, and they don't want to pay it.
Okay,
and they want somebody else to pay for it.
Manuel, excuse me, this is not a political event. We have only 8 minutes to hear from Rosa.
No.
So I would really like to, even if we go late a little bit, it's fine, but we need to hear from her. Thank you.
I don't know. As I looked through the brief introduction and description that you provided, I found the topics very, of course, relevant. But I'd like to perhaps amplify one and add another. Geography, as we know, is central to Azorean identity. I agree with Vitrin Nemesiu, who proposed that aspect. And along with looking at geography as place, I'd also like to amplify it to include nature and the natural environment around us. And I think that Azorean, the natural landscapes and the natural aspects of these islands are incredibly have incredible impact on a person. Julinda, we've talked about the fact that these islands, and I'd like to point out something here, that in this panel about being Azorean, we have persons who were not born in the Azores, but who identify with being Azorean. Julinda and Licínio, for example. Duarte, I don't know your background. In other words, the Azores does not have impact only on those that are born here. They have impact on many other people. And I think the natural environment, the nature of the Azores is fundamental. And given the environmental crisis and challenges we face, this is very important. And I think the Azorean mentality in the past did look at these islands as prisons, as keeping us, almas cativas that Roberto Mesquita wrote about. That certainly is true, but things have changed so drastically. Modes of transport, the technology we have today, look at this. We can be talking across thousands of miles and be present with each other. So that I think the things have changed tremendously, and Azoreans today, I think, have grown, and the Azorean mentality has a growing appreciation for nature and the importance that it has for all of us and for these islands especially. I'd like to also, I had a little bit here to read, but I won't, about the importance of language. I think, as we know, language shapes our views of reality, of life. And I think I have argued, this was a paper I wrote for 2009 for a conference that was held here. I've argued that the Asturianidad that Vitrin Nemesiu wrote about, and that has since then been developed more by other writers, today is bilingual. I don't think we can look at Azoreanness today without including the English language. And I think that only enriches our experience. And this is because also of another aspect that is contained within Nemesiu's idea of Azoreanness, and then subsequently with Antonio Machado Pires, what he wrote, and others, that Azorean, and I really agree with this. I'm not a sociologist, Licínio, right? We know this. but this to me makes so much sense, as some scholars have talked about floating signifiers in terms of developing that identity that Yulinda referred to. And in Azorean reality, there tends to be pairs of floating signifiers. For example, and I'll do it in English, não é? Ir e voltar, going and coming back, leaving and returning, history and geography, tradition and modernity, rural and urban realities, land and sea, flesh and stone, carne e pedra, that Mésio spoke about. I find these pairs of realities so interesting, and it's so true. And the ir e voltar, the going and the coming back, has such an impact on the immigrant experience. So much so that Vitrine Messi wrote, a ilha acaba por ser alma que se carrega toda a vida. And this is true, no matter where you go. And here, of course, geography comes in. This Azoreanness, this connection to the islands, you carry with you. And this, I'll go back then to the nature of the Azores and the nature of these islands, which in Mésio's Mau Tempo no Canal is really a character. Nature is a character in that novel. As I have argued also, it is a character, a very important personagem in Domingos Rebel's painting. So I think this dynamic of these floating signifiers and the impact of nature and the importance of language and bilingualism today is really at the core of what it is to be Azorean today. I don't know if that's too much, but.
No, that was perfect. Actually, I agree with you completely. I think not only is nature a character in Mau Tempo no Canal, it is the defining character. It is the one that develops the plot and brings it to the only possible conclusion, because to me it is probably the main character of the novel.
And Yulinda, remember one time we spoke? I remember we went to Ferreria, which is a special place.
Oh my God,
as we know, and we spoke about how the four elements are so present in Azorean, in these islands. Earth, wind, fire, and water. They're all here.
They're all there.
And they're very present in anyone who lives, for anyone who lives here and wants to see it and is aware of this, for anyone who visits, and for anyone who leaves and carries aquela ilha, carries it with them. And I think this is fascinating. Azorean, being Azorean reality is really such a dynamic phenomenon, I think. And it's really makes sense in the world we live in, where so much is changing, so much is, uncertain. There's still a basis on which to balance things because of these pairs of floating signifiers, etc. So anyway,
it's very interesting what you say, because as you know, I've been spending a month in the Azores every year since 2005, with the exception of the last 2 summers with students. And I take those students our program is Azores and mainland. But when I speak to the students years after, the portion they still talk about and the portion that they reminisce is the time we spend in the Azores. It is extremely interesting how they just cannot wash it out of their hair, sort of to use the reference to South Pacific. It basically becomes a layer of you. And I agree with you, as when we discussed, perhaps is the presence of those 4 elements that makes it so strong and impossible to shed off. I appreciate your intake, but I have one person who's here in attendance, sitting quietly, and who I can still say is younger than us, so he's still a young person, and he is sitting in a classroom, which I believe to be a high school classroom, with the Portuguese flag behind him. And he was initially hired to teach Spanish and has fought like hell to bring Portuguese to this classroom. So first, I would like to welcome Rui Souza, who was with me at Berkeley for a while. And I would like to perhaps just ask Rui, why was it so important for you to be able to teach Portuguese when all your training was really to teach Spanish?
O gosto, o prazer.
You can't speak Portuguese though. Sorry about that.
True. The pleasure, the pride, the ability to talk about language in the first person as opposed to a third person. And so I haven't reached that point yet. I'm still fighting like hell and hope to teach it next year.
We were almost there before the pandemic.
Oh my gosh. But no, I love all that has been said because it's so true. I'm from the origins and the conservatism and that was talked about. I came to this country with the same beliefs, same process with my own parents, and yet I was a recipient, thankfully, of a great benefit from Berkeley, the Pinto Filon scholarship, thanks to you, Linda.
No, thanks to Mr. Pinto. I haven't died and left any money.
Well, you graciously guided me there. But I love also the dynamic. I mean, the same as language that I teach is dynamic. I tell the kids, what's the word you guys are using now? Is it cool? Is it hot? Is it sick? What are you using to describe your own emotions? The language is dynamic, and I think our own culture is dynamic. Yes, I was taking down, as Dr. Tencourt was telling me, there's 14 bands, there's 16 folklore groups. My gosh, we have no idea how many Holy Ghost societies there are. And are we moving away from those? I don't know. I hope we don't. I hope, but will we become like so many other ethnic groups? Are we changing? Yes, I think that we're dynamic. But I also love what Dr. Sima said about the Surinidad and the going back and forth. My gosh, there's that longing that just ties us down. Yet we have now other roots established elsewhere, and so there's this longing to go back and forth and great people.
Yeah, there's your back and forth, Rosa. So this would be my closing question. If there are any questions from the audience, this is the time. But I would like to hear from each of our guests how their own notion of Azorean community has changed over the years. Briefly. Yes, Manuel, you start.
Okay, the Azorean community. So
no, not your notion of
my
being
notion
Azorean.
of Azorean community.
Okay.
Well, my notion of the Azorean community is since the immigration stopped about 30 years ago, the Azorean community, they are still, most of people want to know about their roots, even the younger people, because they like to know where they came from. They like to listen to us, what we went through in Portugal, what we did. They work very hard on this country to be successful. They love the Portuguese events. They if they don't participate, if they don't go, it's because it doesn't mean they don't like it. They do like it, but it depends on their lives, of the spouses, because some marry spouses from other ethnic groups, and so they are involved into culture. But they do like to know about their roots, And I think even the Portuguese lately, the last few years, it has increased in the universities. So, and I hope it will continue to do it.
Thank you. Licinio. Hello.
Hello. I think that the world of Azorean identity is more cultivated by those outside the island and the archipelago. The most striking features are immigration, of course, and hard life, and not folklore. I disagree that literature is the only or the strongest factor of identity. The main thing is, in fact, the experiences and the socialization, the plurial socialization, and all many experience with the communication. You can see the island when you are away from it, but we can better see we are in the face of confrontation with others and diversity. The diversity is more learning than the local reference. Traditional values tend to change rapidly under the impact of global change, of course. During the years that followed the 1974, after the revolution, the Azorean community radically changed their reference that are not longer anchored in the values of the local community, to be more general change. In my case, I am not an example of anything other than Simeon who defends the value of freedom, frontality, and perhaps knowledge, small knowledge. What could I do more that don't try to understand it, just try understand the changes, the style of life, the Azorean style of life.
Thank you. And Kaza, please.
Okay.
Peço desculpa pelo meu inglês macarrónico, hein?
Your English is fine. Don't worry about it. It just needs more practice. So hopefully I'll be in the Azores this June. We're gonna try to reestablish, and it looks like we're going. We have lots of students who want to come, and we are only a few days away from completing enrollment. And at that time, Licinio, I hate to tell you, but you and I will no longer be speaking in Portuguese.
Okay.
We'll be speaking in English, and you're going to have to live with that.
I know, Licinio. I'm going to speak English with you from now on, too. And to close, I think there's not much time now, but to close, I'm going to go back to you, Licinio, in a message my sister from California who's been accompanying this, Marlene, sent a message congratulating you on your discussion. Of course, I didn't hear it, but on your discussion of roots and wings. And that reminds me of a saying that I've always associated with my parents, and the importance of parents to give their children roots for their identity, so that they can develop their self-identity, know who they are, but also wings to be able to discover new worlds and go to other places. And I think that's very, very, very true. And I think that in terms of the community in the United States, in Canada, etc., I think of Liciniu's area of study, which is generations, comparing my area's comparative studies and comparing the experience, the perspective of different generations, I think is basic. And I personally am very gratified and excited about these younger generations who are in their own way, with their own roots and wings, looking for their place within this world of Azoreanness. And I think that's so healthy. And I go back to the idea that English is going to be there all over the place. So Licinio and Yolinda will be talking English in a few months here. Great to see you all. Beijings from the Azores.
Thank you. I would like to thank all of you. And I just want to leave you with one note. It's really interesting. A few years back, I gave one of those ancestry kits to my sons and my grandchildren, to everybody. I gave one for Christmas. I think I got a group number and I gave them all that. And I was the only one who did it. And none of them wanted to know the results. And my grandchildren forbade their parents from taking the tests because they didn't want to know that they were anything but Portuguese. And so, these were, at the time, they were like 15, 16, 17, because they're all like within 5 years, within 5 years. So you can just imagine, it's a mess. But it was really interesting to me that they may not be interested in taking over the control and working for some Portuguese organization. On the other hand, they don't even want to know that there may be any other drop of blood in their veins other than Portuguese. Mm-hmm. So I found that very interesting and very uplifting in a way. And their language skills may not be what I would like them to be. And however, it's impossible to wash it off. Mm-hmm. And I thank you very, very much. And I wish each and every one of us lives our own being Azorean in our own way and thrive in it and share it and enjoy it, because it is a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Just a quick word, Yolinda, to close. I would like to thank again our sponsors, FLAD and Camões Institute with Catra and Atterley. And of course, thank you so much, our guests today, Manuel, Licinio, and Rosa, for being with us. We hope to see you guys soon. And thank you all for your presence, for those who attended. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a lovely week.
Congratulations, Duarte.
Thank you.
See you soon in California.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.